times get tough, there's really only 3 things that matter. In this video, I want to talk about these 3 things, kind of share some of my thoughts of what I think is happening and what I think is going to happen. And I really want to emphasize these 3 things because we all have them and we can all leverage them in a time when we might see money lose its value. We might see political and social breakdown. And these 3 things are very important to understand and reflect on and utilize in the coming days. So what are these 3 things I'm talking about? Well, they come down to the mind, body, and the spirit. I've called them the 3 H's for a long time. What's in your head, what you can do with your hands, and what's in your heart. That's all that matters when times get tough, because you can be prepared, and you should be prepared. You should be very prepared. You should have been preparing a long time ago. I've been talking about this stuff for as long as I've been putting videos out. It's why I got into farming, why I started my journey in 2008 to lead me to where I am today. You can have all those things, but and you can be prepared in all this stuff. You can be armed to the teeth. You can have a farm. You can have all kinds of stuff. But if you don't have these 3 things, and you don't leverage these 3 things properly, then you could potentially lose everything. So let's start with the first one. What's in your head? What do you know how to do? What skills have you learned in your life? What experiences have you had that have changed and shaped you to become the man you are today? Second, what can you do with your hands? What are you willing to do with your hands? Are you willing to step in and get your hands dirty and make things happen when they need to? Are you willing to lend a hand to a neighbor or a friend or a family member or a stranger? Third, what's in your heart? What is in your heart? What have you done for people? Are you good-natured? Are you friendly? Are you enjoyable to be around? Are you the kind of man or woman that people want to be around and that want to help out? And when times get tough, they'll reach out to you to make sure that you're all right? And are you the kind of person to do the same thing to them? Reach out and make sure they're all right. And do something if necessary. Are you willing to do the right thing when the time comes? Because if you don't have a lot in your heart, you might have lots of other stuff. You might have a nice farm. You might have lots of money, whatever it is. But if you're not good-natured, then if times get really tough, where do you think people are going to go? It's kind of this whole thing I've had that's really kind of bothered me with a lot of the prepper movement for a long time. Not that I have anything against prepper movement. I'm a prepper, full on. But I see a lot of this hunker down and just store a bunch of food and buy a bunch of ammo and you'll be all right. I call it the lone wolf thing. You might be able to hunker down for a while, but if the hordes are coming and a lot of people don't like you, you only have so many bullets. And so I think you got to have something in your heart. You got to have a lot in your heart, and so that you have allies and friends that are close to you. Because you might have a lot of the other 2 things too. You might have a lot of skills. You might be a very hard worker. But if you're an asshole, that will only get you so far. So, in the times to come, really think about that. What's in your head? What can you do with your hands? And most importantly, what's in your heart? Because there are going to be a lot of people out there who don't have a lot of skills and don't really know how to work hard, but are really good people that people want to be around. That's worth a lot in tough times. But maybe not. It's sort of, they're all 3 of them are very important, because I see a lot of people out there that are not even prepared for this at all. And I see this whole thing with the mainstream media. They're pushing this narrative and they got the camera focused right over here. You need to socially isolate. You need to distance yourself from others. And you need to make sure you wash your hands and all this. And I'm not saying that those things aren't important. They are. They are important. But there's a whole lot of stuff going on over here when you pull the lens back a little bit. And I see it as a perfect trifecta for an absolute collapse. And I've been watching these things for 20 years. And it was 12 years ago that I really started to take action on it. But what we have right now, if you stop looking where the media wants you to look and you pull the lens back a little bit, we have economic, political, and cultural. We have glacial, huge, massive, astronomical things happening right now. On the economic, we've got governments and banks printing massive amounts of currency units unlike we've ever seen in history. And I've followed the global economy and how it works enough to know that in a fiat and fractional reserve economic world that they always have to keep doing it more because the debt keeps increasing and the inflation keeps increasing, and the only way to fight it is with more inflation. It's such a scam. It's unbelievable. And maybe there'll be a time of reckoning and something that good that comes out of this. But if the banks are producing massive amounts of bonds, which they give to, so the central banks produce these bonds and then they give them to the commercial banks. Those banks go out and do a little thing called fractional reserve lending. And I'm sure a lot of you know about this. But if a central bank gives a commercial bank $100, that commercial bank can now go and lend $900. This is a fact. You can look it up if you don't believe me. It's called fractional reserve lending. It's the whole scam. It's why when you go to get a mortgage, and you want to get a mortgage for $500,000, and you got to put down your 10%, you put down that $50,000. That was literally the only money put up. You put your ass on the line to be an asset, to be the surety of that debt. But they created that debt off the money you put in. It's such a scam. But it's the system, right? It's the game. I have a mortgage. You know, we're all playing this play. We're all actors in this play. So when the economic dust settles, and after all this money printing, we're going to see lots of activity in the economy, and you're going to see all the news saying, oh, this is boom town. You know, stocks are surging, the economy is surging. And then all that money's going to actually get out in the economy. And then when that happens, there's going to be so many more disproportionate currency units to a ever decreasing amount of stuff. So more money trying to buy less stuff. What does that mean? It means hyperinflation. We've seen it before in history. I have a friend whose grandparents, an older friend whose grandparents lived through the Weimar Republic, and I've heard the stories of how it went. And you needed, it's an old cliche, we've all heard it, you needed a wheelbarrow of cash to buy a loaf of bread. Well, that will probably happen in this, but it'll be a little bit down the road. We still got a ways to go on this whole thing. We haven't seen where this is going to go. The money printing is just really ramping up now, and we're still going to see where they push the hype with this illness. I'm personally more worried about the flu, but my family take precautions every year to make sure that we don't get the flu, just like people are doing right now with this whole insanity. But it's going to be a while till the dust settles with the money printing. That could be 6 months. That could be after the next election cycle in the US. So the other thing that's happening that I see is governments are extending their powers beyond anything I've ever seen in my life. And they do this from time to time, and they use opportunities like this, whether they're true or false. Let's just say for the discussion, this is all true. This is all real. They're extending measures to increase their power and decrease your power. And do you think they're going to roll those back when this is all done? So let's say they cure this thing, and then let's say it all winds down in the next month. All the numbers are saying that that's not going to happen. They're all the media and all the experts are all saying this thing's going to last a while. But let's just say they cured it tomorrow, just for the sake of the argument. Do you think that they're going to roll back all those measures that they just increased? Does that ever happen? Does government ever say, oh, that program worked, let's just shut that down now? They don't do that. Just like how they brought in the income tax in World War II. I think in most countries it was around that time they did that. And they said it was for emergency measures to fund the war. Well, did they take it back after the war? No, they didn't, and they won't. So we're going to live in a very different world once all the dust settles from this. We're going to live in a very different world. Now, the third thing that I'm seeing is major cultural shift. So we've been going through this cultural shift for a number of years. I would say it really started to accelerate with the advent of the smartphone, because the social isolation thing that's happening right now is being widely accepted because most people are already kind of socially isolated. Everybody's on their devices all the time. You go into a big city and you take a metro or a SkyTrain or a subway, and nobody looks at each other. Nobody says hello. Everybody's on their damn devices. So we've already been going through this social isolation thing for a number of years. And when they rolled this out and said everybody's got to social distance themselves, whatever, people were like, not really that big of a deal. I kind of do that already. But now it's created this whole new level of collectivism that I've never seen in my life, where now we have people going out on a nice sunny day like this and going outside and walking the dog and going to the park, throwing a beach ball around at the beach, and people are hating on them. And you see it in social media, and you see even the news kind of guiding the hand of the sheeple to make them hate. It's funny too, because the media never really comes out and says do this or that. They kind of play this game where they say, oh, should we be concerned about people? They kind of guide it, and then they let people come to that conclusion themselves so that they think they thought of it. And now you see this craziness where people are literally calling the police on others because they're having their parents over for dinner. It's literally getting that bad. I'm seeing these news stories already develop each day. So it's a whole new level of collectivism. So far, it looks a lot like what happened in Soviet Russia with the kulaks, where Lenin basically said, let's go and find all these guys who have stuff, and let's take it from them because they're privileged, right? They're entitled. And this is different, but it's a whole level of collectivism. And it's where the world might change to a place where your neighbor is now informing on you because you had some friends come over for dinner. That's literally where I can see this going, and it's insane. Is it justified? I don't think that is justified, whether this is all real or not. But this is insane, and it's a perfect trifecta: government, political, cultural, all happening right now. And we're going to see some interesting times, guys. We really are. And I hope that not only are you prepared in many ways, that you're getting your gardens ready. I'm doing that right now. I'm prepping this bed. I've got a ton of stuff started in the greenhouse. I've been preparing for this for 12 years, really. Not only I hope that you are prepared, but you're also willing to do the right thing when the time comes, and you're willing to lend a helping hand and use your body and your skills to produce things of value and help others, and that you also keep your head on straight and you stay rational and don't let fear guide your actions. Stay calm, think, and then act. And the time for acting is now. You need to do things now, but you got to be rational. And you got to help people out. And I don't think that this social distancing thing is good. It seems like it's a perfect way to break down the social fabric so that people don't help each other out because they'll be afraid of being informed on. It's crazy. But that's my message for today, and I hope you all survive and thrive in this, because I think there's some real opportunities to thrive. I'm getting messages from farmers all around the world that have taken my advice, not that I was the only one that thought about that, but started CSAs, and I'm getting messages every day of people that said, I stopped doing CSAs years ago. We did it again, sold out in 24 hours. I'm getting that all the time. Even farmer friends of mine in the area here are telling me the same thing. So there's things you can do on the farm, there's things you can do individually. And I hope that you make the right decision, and I hope that you come out of this better and stronger and more connected to your community. All right, guys, those are my thoughts for today. Have yourselves a wonderful day. It's beautiful here, and I'll see you in the next video.